you any explanation, nor anyone. What happens between Amaya and I stays between us, and that's how I intend to keep it. Do you get it?
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
What's wrong?
I missed you.
Hey, drive safely, please, okay? Okay?
Miss Fabia, what I'm trying to say is that I want to marry Bianca.
It's thrilling, intriguing, unpredictable, with unique match experience that will leave you yearning for more. It's the second round of the DFB Cup competition of the German Football Association from the 22nd of December 2020 through to the 13th of January 2021. And it is happening live and exclusive on KBC Channel 1 as SV Elversberg takes on Mönchengladbach. Your holidays are bound to be exciting on board your true sports partner.
A very good evening to our viewers here in Kenya and around the world. It's Sunday, the 20th of December 2020. My name is Purity Museo. Where are you planning to celebrate the Christmas and New Year from? Do you really know what impact this could have on the most vulnerable up country? On Family Matters tonight, we discuss COVID-19 and holiday celebrations. How best can we celebrate without putting any person, especially the vulnerable groups, into any kind of a risk? We will be speaking with Dr. Rudy Eggers, who is the WHO representative to Kenya. We will also be having a look at reports on emergence of a new variant of coronavirus being reported at the UK, and whether as a country we are on the right track on the fight against COVID-19, or should the government impose more restrictions ahead of the festive seasons. That will be our discussions tonight at Purity_Museo and at KBC Channel 1 News. Simon Karodha is our sign language interpreter tonight. Let's get started. A planned conciliatory meeting between the government, nurses and clinical officers on the ongoing health crisis aborted Sunday after the government failed to appear for the talks. The meeting had been called to discuss ways of ending the ongoing industrial strike, which has caused untold suffering to thousands of patients seeking services in public facilities. Sunday's aborted meeting comes just hours before doctors made good their threat to down tools over failure by the government to address their grievances.
Patients in need of health services in public hospitals will have to look elsewhere beginning midnight if doctors make good their threat to boycott duties over unmet demands. 8 cadres, including medical officers, dentists, county directors of health, pharmacists and medical officer interns, will not return to work Monday after the lapse of a 21-day strike notice. The doctors' strike will run concurrently with that of nurses and clinical officers, which entered its 14th day Sunday. A conciliatory meeting called on Sunday between nurses, clinical officers and government failed to take place after the government failed to show up for the talks.
Today we are here at the Ministry of Labour, having been invited to be able to come and conclude this process so that we could be able to return our members to work. We were told that there was an offer on the table and that we were supposed to come and sign a return to work agreement, only to come here and find that the decision makers who are supposed to be around actually did not come to the meeting.
The medics alleged that failure to honour the meeting at the labour offices highlighted the government's unwillingness to end the strike.
In the 2 weeks that has been, we have not had the decision makers in the side of the employers, the Ministry of Health and the Council of Governors sitting in. So the whole process that we have been undergoing was actually set up to fail. And that is why today it has actually failed to deliver on its mandate.
On Friday, Health Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe directed the medics to go back to work, warning that they risk the sack for defying a court order suspending the strike.
Those of you who may have been on strike, to resume to avoid losing your jobs. Please do not lose your job. As we go towards Christmas, as we go towards the festive season, do not be the one statistic again who will be a job seeker next year.
The chairman of the Council of Governors, Wycliffe Oparanya, dashed the possibilities of any financial settlements with the striking medics.
Tumefunga mahospitali mengi katika Kenya kwa sababu ya mkomo ya madaktari na wauguzi wote. Kwa sababu ya demands zao, nataka mjue zile demands za madaktari na wale nurses na national government. Kwa sababu madaktari wanataka risk allowance na sisi kama counties hatuwezi kulipa risk allowance mpaka ipitishwe na SRC.
Oparanya's remarks coming even as medics maintain they will not accept anything less than the respective irreducible minimums.
This is happening a day after I've seen Mutahi Kagwe going around and telling people that he will fire the healthcare workers. And we are saying, you can fire them. It is better they be alive tomorrow, today and tomorrow, to seek jobs, rather than them being forced back to unsafe working condition to die and enroll them in the list that we have seen you announcing dying from COVID.
The strike by the health workers comes at a time the country is dealing with the coronavirus pandemic and the possibilities of a surge of infections during the festive season. Caroline Kamau reporting for Channel 1 News Hour.
And the strike by clinical officers and nurses enters the second week tomorrow, with the doctors now saying they will be joining their colleagues to demand especially adequate and quality personal protective equipment. Elsewhere, the diplomatic row between Kenya and Somalia took precedence at the 38th Extraordinary Summit at the Assembly of Heads of State and Government of the Intergovernmental Authority on Development, IGAD, in Djibouti. AUC Chairperson Musa Faki Mahamat called for an immediate de-escalation of tension between Kenya and Somalia, saying the two countries share a long history of good neighborliness and a common position on the need to bring lasting peace to the Horn of Africa.
The African Union has called for an end to the ongoing diplomatic spat between Kenya and Somalia. In his address to the heads of state and government of the Intergovernmental Authority on Development in Djibouti, African Union Commission Chairperson Musa Faki Mohammed said the diplomatic tension between Kenya and Somalia was a concern for the African Union. Mohammed called for a dialogue in de-escalating the tension, saying Kenya and Somalia share a long history of good neighborliness, citing Kenya's contribution of troops to the African Union mission in Somalia. Mohammed highlighting Kenya's role in humanitarian efforts and its hosting of a large population of Somali refugees as a key reference point.
I am convinced that the long-standing and strong links between the two countries and peoples can overcome the current challenges.
Nairobi and Mogadishu are currently embroiled in a diplomatic standoff which has seen Somalia cut ties with Kenya over alleged interference in Somalia's internal affairs. Kenya has however denied any wrongdoing. Yusuf Farah, Channel 1 News.
And Deputy President William Ruto is cautioning Kenyans against falling prey to politicians bent on causing divisions among citizens. Ruto, who was in Samburu County, urged Kenyans to embrace their diversity and reject any calls by the political class that may cause disharmony among communities. Gladys Mungai with details of the weekend that was filled with political activities.
On Sunday, Deputy President William Ruto was in Samburu and Uasin Gishu counties, where he renewed calls for Kenyans to remain united. Ruto warned the political class not to divide Kenyans along tribal lines, but present their ideas on development devoid of hate.
The purpose of God in giving us different cultures and different traditions and different communities is so that we can be stronger, celebrating our diversity.
Leaders accompanying the DP poked holes into the BBI proposals contained in the Constitution of Kenya Amendment Bill 2020, arguing it was hurriedly crafted and would see regions with lower population lose developmental allocation.
We should not allow negative politics to use our different communities and cultures and different traditions to divide us.
Please let us refocus our priorities on the people of Kenya and their needs, not the needs of leaders as we seek for positions. Because we have time. We have the rest of our future to make laws, to change constitutions, but our children's time in school is limited.
Mchunguze kwa sababu katika zile maneno ya boundaries pia ya constituency mnaweza poteza ile constituency tuliwadonetia. Kwa sababu kama tutaenda na idadi ya wingi wa watu peke yake, basi nyinyi idadi yenu haiwezi tosha nyinyi kupata hizo constituencies ambazo hata mko nazo sahihi. Ndio maana tunasema lazima wale wako na idadi ya watu wengi wawakilishwe, lakini pia wale wako na idadi ya watu wachache na ukubwa wa ardhi, maslahi yao pia yangaliwe.
Separately, Ford Kenya party leader Moses Wetangula has faulted a proposal to have IBC commissioners appointed by political parties, saying it would interfere with the independence of the electoral body.
That if you are a competitor in the electoral process of Kenya, you cannot and you will not decide who your referee will be. Teams don't choose referees. Chebukati is a referee, allow him to do his job.
For Channel 1 News, I'm Gladys Mungai.
The globe is on high alert following the discovery of a new strain of coronavirus that has been reported in the United Kingdom. The new strain is reported to be highly infectious but less deadly than COVID-19. This comes as 6 more people succumbed from the virus, while 349 new cases were reported. PSVs have also been cautioned against carrying more than 60% of their capacity as Kenyans begin to travel upcountry for the festivities.
The World Health Organization says it is in close contact with UK officials following reports of the discovery of a new variant of coronavirus. The new variant is reported to be spreading more rapidly than the original version, but it is not believed to be as deadly. A similar mutation of the virus has also been detected in the Netherlands, Denmark and Australia. There is no evidence to suggest the new variant reacts differently to vaccines.
Does this make the virus more serious? Does it allow the virus to transmit more easily? Does it in any way interfere with diagnostics? Would it in any way interfere with vaccine effectiveness? These are questions. None of these questions have been addressed yet, and we have no information to suggest that any of that is the case.
In the UK, large parts of southeast England, including London, are now under a stricter level of restrictions in a bid to curb the rapidly spreading virus.
Given the early evidence we have on this new variant of the virus, the potential risk it poses, it is with a very heavy heart, I must tell you, we cannot continue with Christmas as planned. In England, those living in Tier 4 areas should not mix with anyone outside their own household at Christmas.
On Sunday, the Netherlands introduced a ban on passenger flights from the UK until 1st of January because of the new variant. Both the Netherlands and Belgium have suspended flights. Trains to Belgium have also been banned. Germany and France are reported to be considering similar action. Meanwhile, Deputy President William Ruto has warned Kenyans against flouting COVID-19 containment measures as the festive season begins.
Mimi nataka niwaulize wananchi wote, tatizo la ugonjwa wa corona ipo, na nataka kila mtu tuwe waangalifu, tuhakikisha kwamba hata katika sherehe hii ya Krismasi tuwe na kiasi, na tuhakikisha kwamba tunafuata ile maagizo ya Wizara ya Afya, ndio tusipoteze watu kwa ugonjwa huu kiholela, na tuhakikisha kwamba tunajilinda.
These coming as 349 cases of COVID-19 have been confirmed from a sample size of 5,025. These figures translate into a 6.9 positivity rate at a time when the number of positive cases rose to 94,500. The number of fatalities also rose to 1,639 after 6 more patients lost their lives. 176 more patients made full recovery, with the total now standing at 75,735. Currently, 831 patients are admitted in hospital, with 52 still in the intensive care unit. Nancy Okware, Channel 1 News.
Elsewhere, the Council of Governors condoled with the family of the late Nyamira Governor John Nyagarama at his current home. The governors, joining family and friends at the late governor's residence, pledged their full support to the family as burial preparations continue. Nyagarama died on Friday while undergoing treatment in Nairobi.
It was a somber mood at the home of the late Nyamira County Governor John Nyagarama in Karen, Nairobi. Yes. Friends, family and other mourners trooped to the home to console the family and pay homage to the departed governor. The Council of Governors, led by their chairman Wycliffe Oparanya, visited the family on Sunday afternoon. Oparanya, in eulogizing the late governor, said his death has left a void in the lives of many people he touched as an elected leader.
Very committed man, soft-spoken, a man of few words.
But this man, I'm not even sure whether he was a politician, because he was a very good man. Nyagarama couldn't lie to you, Nyagarama couldn't abuse you. Nyagarama could just keep on smiling with you with his throaty smile.
Ni mzee ambaye alikuwa anapenda mambo ya kanisa, na tumepoteza mzee mpole ambaye siasa yake ilikuwa ya upole. So you can be soft and still leave a mark in politics.
We have enjoyed his wisdom, his uzee, and his guidance, and a very gentle spirit. So we know that if we are losing him, you are losing him very, very, very.
To the family, and especially Mama Naomi, the void that has been left by His Excellency Governor Nyagarama, who was your dear husband, will be filled by the love of Jesus Christ.
When things were tough, I had a moment to come home. We said prayer. When you chased everyone away, I met with you and the late our governor. We had mentioned a prayer, and God answered that prayer.
Council of Governor Deputy Chairman Mwangi Wairia said his death was a big blow, and to those in the tea sector, as the governor was passionate about tea and had worked in the sector before opting to join politics.
Every time tukikutana mbali ya mtu wa maziwa, na mimi nilikuwa namuita mtu wa chai, because I have a strong milk background and he had a stronger background in the tea industry. So our meeting always would be like a meeting of a cup of tea. And to me, it was like a father. I always felt very muted. Mimi nikiwa kwa mkutano, and I'm very sincere, nione Nyagarama, I used to feel like there was an element of safety and peace.
They pledged to stand with the family at this difficult moment.
Madam Naomi, just do know that we're not going to let you go. We shall be with you. You are part of the larger family now.
And we have come here to show our commitment to the family that we are together in this journey. Today is you, tomorrow is someone else.
74-year-old Nyagarama died on Friday morning at the Nairobi hospital, where he had been receiving treatment for several weeks. He is reported to have been placed on life support earlier in the week when his condition worsened. The Ministry of Interior has announced that he will be accorded a state funeral. His burial date is yet to be announced. For Channel 1 News, I'm Ben Troinjue.
And in Kisumu County, the county government has warned that it will not relent in efforts to repossess all grabbed parcels of land in the county. The county government has, to that effect, issued a vacate notice to everyone in possession of illegally acquired land. Kisumu County also wants regional land officers to immediately stop processing land title deeds, alleging that some public spaces were notoriously being transferred to private entities. Chola Simon with the details.
The second phase of demolitions have begun in Kisumu County, months after the first phase, which paved way for the revamping of 3 billion shillings Kisumu Port. This time round, those occupying public land, road reserves and spaces set aside for public utilities are feeling the pinch as the county government creates space for expansion and beautification of the lakeside city. The county estimates that close to 50 parcels of prime public land have been fraudulently transferred to private entities, hampering the expansion of public utilities such as sewerage systems, parking lots and road networks.
Some of the land you find that we can't expand the waterworks, and as the city grows, there's need to have most of these services then as expanding to a larger city. Some of the land are also for sewer treatment plant at Kisat. These lands were again illegally allocated, and we are in the process of repossessing them.
The county says it will use every legal means to repossess all parcels of land illegally transferred by former provincial administrators. Municipal workers and land officers have also been warned against engaging in land malpractices.
And this was also caused by the former councillors and town clerks, dubious town clerks and councillors. This process started in late 1970. It went to 1980s, and it escalated early 90s up to around 90. The last allotments, fake allotments that were issued were 1998.
Kisumu County Acting City Manager Balawanga also wants land officers in the county to immediately stop the processing of title deeds of land belonging to the county government.
We are recovering good properties, and you are still engaged in shoddy deals, and for us, losing a lot of properties. So as we recover, please suspend any processing of land that is related to the documents and files of the city.
Wanga said Kisumu County is reeling from the effects of illegal land transfers, and the county will stop at nothing in ensuring all grabbed public spaces are repossessed and put into use. Chola Simon reporting for Channel 1 Weekend from Kisumu County.
On Twitter at Brian Wambwak, he's saying you're watching from Makueni County. Thank you so much for watching. Harrington Jenga from Kakamega County, you also tuned in. Timothy Mutheki, you also tuned in. Thank you for your feedback. Keep them coming. We are live on Facebook and YouTube. You can also stream live. I'll be going through your feedback as we continue with this broadcast. In other news, the youth factor in national development has remained a subject of debate, with the Constitution of Kenya Amendment Bill 2020 seeking to bring an end to this debate. The bill formulated by the BBI task force is proposing the formulation of a youth commission to address the youth issues. Kevin Washira examines the proposal to insert a new Article 237A in the Constitution to establish the Youth Commission. Take a look.
In a bid to promote participation of youth in governance and economy, the Building Bridges Initiative Task Force proposed the formation of a youth commission to advance the youth agenda. Clause 63 of the Constitution of Kenya Amendment Bill 2020 proposes the insertion of a new Article 237A in the Constitution that will see the establishment of the Youth Commission. It also outlines the functions and composition of the commission that is expected to promote the implementation of the rights of the youth under Article 55 of the Constitution. In the proposal, the commission will comprise of a chairperson and 6 members who will be appointed by the President with the approval of the Senate. The members of the commission shall include persons with experience in youth affairs and governance and shall hold office for a single term of 4 years. The function of the commission include advancing the participation of the youth in all spheres of public and private life, as well as ensuring the mainstreaming of youth perspectives in planning and decision-making. The Youth Commission shall also advise the national and county governments on the design, implementation and evaluation of policies and programs to secure sustainable livelihoods of the youth. The Commission will also be required to facilitate generational mentorship and integration of African traditional values with contemporary youth lifestyles. Further, it will be the duty of the Youth Commission to promote the preservation and dissemination of African morals, traditions and cultures among the young people. Kevin Washira, Channel 1 News.
And do the holiday celebrations pose a threat in controlling the spread of COVID-19? If yes or no, what are some of the precautions that you should take if you're planning to travel for the Christmas and New Year celebrations? Dr. Rudy Egas, who is the representative of the World Health Organization to Kenya, will be joining us tonight for that conversation. At Purity_Museo and at KBC Channel 1 News, the hashtag to use is Family Matters KBC. Let's take our first commercial break. We'll be back with that and much more right here. Stay with us.
When the world changed, it made us go back to the simple joys and love the little things even more, like serving up your best, eating together, and sharing more. Now, we'll take nothing for granted and always remember to taste the simple joys. Enjoy the magic of Christmas with Coca-Cola.
Ni mimi. Ulitoa pikipiki? Mlitani sitaomoka. Ni yako. Hii nduti ni yangu. Niliwahi pale Quickbit. Quickbit? Quickbit imekuja kusaidia wananchi kama sisi. Nilinunua 399 shillings. Juu nilikuwa the lowest unique bidder. 399 shillings. Quickbit shilingi moja unaweza nunua fridge. Shilingi 2 unaweza nunua microwave. Shilingi 5 unaweza nunua hata gari. So tupeleke huko hata mtu aende huko.
Jiunga na Quickbit ni rahisi. Enda kwenye M-Pesa, bonyeza paybill kisha weka business number 4032353. Kwenye account weka kodi ya bidhaa unayotaka na bidi yako ya chini zaidi. Kwa mfano TV 16. Kisha weka shilingi 20 tu kama idadi yako. Weka bidi yako pia kwenye www.quickbit.co.ke. Kumbuka, bidi ya chini zaidi ya kipekee ndio ununua. Quickbit, bidhaa bora kwa bei ya chini.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
What's wrong?
I missed you.
Hey, drive safely, please, okay? Okay?
Miss Fabia, what I'm trying to say is,
is that I want to marry Bianca.
And thank you so much for staying with Channel 1 Weekend. Simon Karodha is our sign language interpreter tonight. Police officers have been challenged to prioritize service to the people and carry out their work diligently during a special Thanksgiving prayer service in honor of the National Police Service. The service held at the All Saints Cathedral saw the officers hailed for putting their lives on the line to ensure the safety of Kenyans. Serafina Robi with details of the prayer service.
It was a Sunday of reflection for the frontline National Police Service police officers. The uniformed officers will troop into All Saints Cathedral for a special Thanksgiving service ahead of the NDR. It's here that the officers were challenged to remain true to their calling of service to the people.
To give thanks to God for our police officers and security personnel who have served our nation selflessly, and to pray for God's grace, protection and strength as they provide security to the citizens of our nation.
And as you keep law and order, you are actually joining God in doing his good work. And even in keeping peace, we know that that is work that God does as well.
They were also urged to ensure they operate within their mandate, even as they were recognized for their role in ensuring the country's safety.
Wherever you are, whatever you are doing, the services that you are rendering to the members of the public, that is part of that work that we are called to do.
But constantly we continue to encourage each other so that we live a life that is orderly and a life that obeys the law of the land and the law of God.
They were cautioned to also ensure they observe the COVID-19 regulations as part of the frontline workers.
They are among the frontline workers who are fighting this disease, and consequently, they are more exposed to infections, a risk that they extend to their families. I believe together in prayer, God will protect our police officers as they endeavor to deliver on some of these risky but life-saving assignments.
At the end of the service, some of them were presented with gifts as part of the Christmas festivities.
Thank you. Isn't it nice? With the cathedral.
For Channel 1 News, I'm Serafina Robi.
And the government could be forced to delay the construction of a 20 billion shillings water project in Kwale County following a land dispute in the area. The project, which is scheduled to begin in March 2021, is now steeped in controversy as residents and the National Land Commission continue to disagree over land compensation.
The construction of Moche Dam project that was meant to tackle persistent water shortage in the coastal region might delay due to a land compensation dispute. The project, co-funded by the World Bank and the Kenyan government to the tune of 20 billion shilling, was scheduled to begin in March 2021. The dam, when complete, is expected to put 2,600 hectares of land under irrigation in Kwale County. County woman representative Zuleka Hassan now wants the president to halt the land compensation package until the matter is resolved.
Juzi kweli tuliitwa huko ofisini. Kufika huko nikafanya kwamba na huyo mama wa NLC saini hapa, nikamuuliza ni saini nini hapa na mimi sijui. Akaniambia saini ukitoka huko nje utaenda ambiwa pesa yako. Nikamwambia mimi ni saini na hata sijui na saini tu huko utaenda kuambiwa. Mimi sina namna, nikabidi tu ni saini shingo pande, pia mimi sitaki. Kufika kule nikawauliza, sasa mwasema ni saini kivipi? Mbona mniambii mmea wangu na nyumba yangu ni pesa ngapi? Mmea wako wa muhogo ni shilingi 10 wewe. Na afu nyumba yako utaona hapa kwa karatasi. Nikarusha ile kalamu pale.
Nikauliza swali kupitia bunge. Nikauliza kuhusiana na fidia. Watu wanalipwa pesa ngapi ekari, wanalipwa shilingi ngapi miti yao na kadhalika. National Land Commission kwa miezi mitatu sasa wamenyamaza, hawajajibu hilo swali la bunge. Mpaka bunge wiki 2 kabla tufunge wakawaandikia barua kuambia mbona mmechukua muda mrefu kujibu hili swali, kwa hivyo tuwapa wiki 2 kujibu. Na hadi sasa bunge limefungwa, bado National Land Commission hawajajibu.
Zuleka accused the National Land Commission for trying to shortchange residents. The lawmaker argues the 350,000 shillings being offered per acre is far below the market value.
Shida yetu kuu, hii pesa tunayoipewa hatujathibitishiwa ya kwamba inaendana na kulingana na katiba ya Kenya ya gatuzi la Kwale. Ni kidogo na tunasema hatuitaki.
Kevin Washira, Channel 1 News.
And Google has paid homage to Sudan, the world's last surviving male northern white rhino who passed away on the 19th of March 2018. Sudan was a captive northern white rhinoceros that lived in a zoo in Czech Republic from 1975 to 2009 and the rest of his life at the Olpejeta Conservancy in Laikipia, Kenya. At the time of his death, Sudan was one of the only 3 living northern white rhinoceroses in the world and the last known male of his subspecies.
In the 1970s, Sudan escaped extinction of his kind in the wild when he was moved to a zoo in the Czech Republic and eventually to Olpejeta Conservancy in Laikipia, Kenya. Following the global environment campaign in 2008 by the World Wildlife Fund, the northern white rhino was declared extinct in the wild. This resulted in Sudan spending a decade under 24-hour armed surveillance at the Olpejeta Conservancy. Breeding attempts with Sudan at Olpejeta Conservancy were unsuccessful, and at the end of 2017, he suffered from an infection in his right hind leg. Although his condition improved in subsequent months, the infection returned, and in March 2018, his state seriously deteriorated and he was euthanized on the 19th of March 2018 after suffering from an age-related complication. The 45-year-old white rhino, upon his demise, was the equivalent of 90 in human years and was long past his breeding age. At the time of his death, he was one of the only 3 living northern white rhinoceroses in the world and the last known male of his subspecies. He left behind his daughter Najin and granddaughter Fatu. In his honor, Google has published a doodle on its homepage to celebrate him. Nancy Okware, Channel 1 News.
The rollout of the universal health coverage by the government marked a turning point for Kenyans as access to health services for all became a reality. However, the advent of the COVID-19 pandemic appears to be reversing the gains made so far. In Museo County, some small-scale traders who had begun making contribution to NHIF have defaulted, blocking them from accessing treatment. Tonight on Channel 1 Weekend, we examine the new threat to the government's Big Four agenda of affordable healthcare for all.
The launch of affordable healthcare 2 years ago will bring hope to millions of Kenyans on the possibility of receiving affordable health service through the universal health coverage program by the government. This is Busia County. It is home to Janet Anyango. She is a cereals trader in Amagoro and a mother of 7. She is one of the beneficiaries of the affordable health care program by government. When the program was first rolled out, she set aside 500 shillings monthly to pay for NHIF and enable her and her 7 children access health services.
Tangu mwezi wa 3 sijalipa hiyo NHIF kwa sababu biashara ilienda chini. Hata nimekuwa mgonjwa. Nilienda hapo, ilibidi nilikuwa na ng'ombe nikauza ili kujitibu.
However, she confessed she's not up to date with her payments. The reason for 6 months now, she has prioritized putting food on the table with the meager earnings after the COVID-19 pandemic ravaged her businesses.
watu wa biashara kidogo ituboost kwa biashara zetu, at least ziamuke. Maana tunaona Januari wanataka kufungua, hatuna hata watoto wataenda shule.
Her story mirrors that of Vincent Adedi. He is a welder at Botula Market. He says he has been listed as a defaulter having failed to make remittance.
Nilikata NHIF miaka 20 iliyopita. Lakini tangu janga la COVID lianze, kadi yangu sijalipa mpaka wa sasa. Familia wanakuwa wagonjwa, kienda hospitali lazima utoe pesa. Imebidi nimeuza vitu assets zimekuwa nazo kwa nyumba.
He also says he's on the brink of poverty after he was forced to dispose some of his assets to cater for his children's hospital bills after they fell ill.
Na private ni bili iko juu. Siku mbili unaambiwa shilingi 15,000. Siku moja tu unaambiwa shilingi 8,000, 10,000. Na mimi mapato yangu kwa siku ni shilingi 200. Unaona nitakuwa ngumu kulipa hiyo gharama ya matibabu. Inabidi tena uende uuze kitu nyumbani, uende uuze hata kama ni TV ili mtoto atibiwe.
Their story has triggered Busia Traders Association chairperson Stephen Ogala to appeal to government to waive debts for persons who fail to remit their monthly contribution owing to the effects of the pandemic.
Kabla uchumi haujakuwa mzuri, serikali iweze kulipia wananchi wote mambo ya NHIF. Kwa hivyo naomba serikali yetu ya Kenya, ikiwa hawatachukua hatua madhubuti, saa hizi tunaambiwa kwamba shule nafaa zifunguliwe.
He says the waiver will ease pressure on the already burdened traders considering schools reopen in January. Busia County Chief Officer for Health Dr. Isaac Omeri revealed that most traders and locals in informal employment have not been able to make their remittance.
Even waive their premiums by NHIF if it's possible, and give them an amnesty of maybe 6 months to waive the premiums and give them opportunity to be able to access healthcare services.
Dr. Omeri warned failure to remit the monthly fee could see Kenyans lose out on affordable treatment and reverse the gains made in boosting access to healthcare.
And in other news, Misiku residents in Webuye are demanding a ban on night travel by West Kenya Sugar Company tractors following the death of 2 people in a night accident. The duo are reported to have rammed into a stationary truck belonging to the sugar company. Meanwhile, Kenya Power and Lighting Company has dismissed claims that the cost of power for domestic users is exorbitant. More details in the County News Roundup.
The irate residents are blaming the death of the 2 motorists on the sugar company, saying the tractor was parked on the road causing obstruction. They're now calling on the government to ban night activities by the sugar company to avert road accidents.
Tractor ya kampuni ya West Kenya ilikuwa imeharibikia barabarani hapa na wakaiacha hapa bila kuweka saini yoyote ya kuonyesha ya kwamba kuna gari imeharibika mahali hapa na imekuwa imebeba miwa. Na huu wakati wa mwendo wa saa 1 jioni hii, kuna mpendwa ambaye amekuwa amebeba mwenzake, wanatoka sehemu za Kimilili wanaelekea Misihu, na kwa vile hiyo tractor haikukuwa na saini yoyote, wakaingia ndani na wakakufa hapo na hapo.
Separately, Thika Town residents are calling for speedy division of the constituency to ensure better access to government services. The residents are demanding for the subdivision of the constituency to ensure their children access bursary funds.
It's a matter of urgency. Giving these parents 3,000, it has totally no impact. We give them 3,000, and after that, they're going to do harabes in their home, in their homes, because this money is barely doing nothing. We know there's some constituencies that are educating their children up to university level using bursaries. For us, we are struggling to make heads or tails about these 3,000 we are getting.
Meanwhile, residents of Kamore in Naivasha took to the streets to demand tarmacking of the road, which they say is impassable, rendering movement of goods and persons difficult.
Tuwekewe rami kutoka flyover mpaka Logonot, ndio usafiri uwe rahisi. Hata wale wakulima ambao tunalima mahali hapa, kwa sababu mimi ni mkulima na pia mimi nafugaga busi, tunauza busi, tunaendea busi Narok, lakini tukifika Logonot buzi zetu zinatolewa kwa lori, tunaibadilisha miguu.
And Kenya Power and Lighting Company has dismissed claims that the cost of electricity is high, urging users not to shift to other energy sources. KPLC CEO Bernard Ngoge says an ordinary consumer pays an average of 200 shillings a month for electricity. He was in Gate-2 North Imenti to launch an 8 million shilling last mile project that will benefit over 100 homes.
Ni lifestyle yetu ya kila mwananchi. Unaingia tu na kisha tap na stima inawaka. Tap inazimika. Hiyo ni lifestyle. Na ni nzuri sababu mwangaza unao kufanya tu tap, mwangaza unakuja. Kama una radio ama television ama simu una charge, pia ni hivyo hivyo. Mambo yanakuwa rahisi.
Elsewhere, residents of Keno Town were treated to a rare spectacle when a group of youths cleaned up the town, collected garbage, drained clogged drainages and swept compounds in efforts to address the garbage menace.
We've collected more than 4 lorries as youths, and what we are also asking the government, the county government, is that even when it's taken the dumping site, let there be a system of sorting, because we know that this dirt is made up of decomposable and non-decomposable materials. So when even in the dump site, the non-decomposable can be collected, it can also be an opportunity for business, for especially bottles and all that, and the decomposable can be used for manure.
Meanwhile, a section of vulnerable families in Njoro, Nakuru County benefited from food donations from non-governmental organizations as festivities began.
Sijakosa sukari sasa, sijakosa sabuni ya kufuria mtoto wangu na ndafua kila dakika. Sijamfunga vitangali tena, alikuwa anafunga vitangali, sinya pampers. Najua kukua ilikuwa na njaa zaidi. Namfunga vitambaa sana, lakini Mungu alinikujia. Wamenipa hope. Sana na mtu asifiche mtoto wake. Mtu asijaribu kuficha.
Finally, Kenyans have been challenged to embrace the e-commerce platform for everyday shopping as it offers convenience. The call for online shopping comes at a time when the globe is battling the COVID-19 pandemic, forcing businesses to focus on online marketing and sales to sustain their businesses.
Now that the internet is widely available, dealers don't have to rely only on walk-ins. People can shop for cars from the comfort of their homes. We're very lucky in Kenya, to be honest, that the adoption of the internet is very high. So you can look at it through your phone before you make a decision to go, and see the car physically.
Reporting for Channel 1 News, I'm Jackie Wambiru.
On Family Matters tonight, we focus on some of the precautions that you ought to take if you're planning to travel up country for Christmas and New Year celebrations. Dr. Rudy Eggers, WHO's representative to Kenya, is our guest tonight. Stay tuned for that. Let's take our second commercial break. When we return, sports news is up next.
On the next episode of Kona.
Cheki, nishafanya vile ulikuwa unataka. Mami yako mali unataka. Nini unataka na mimi?
This time we fight. You should have worked with the police from the start.
How can you say that? All I did was be there for her when things went bad between her and Simon.
There's no way to keep Richard's name out of it. I'm so sorry, Julia. You know, I hate that it has to be this way. But we agreed we can't let them get away with what they're doing anymore. There's no other way, Julia.
It's thrilling, intriguing, unpredictable, with unique match experience that will leave you yearning for more. It's the second round of the DFB Cup competition of the German Football Association from the 22nd of December 2020 through to the 13th of January 2021. And it is happening live and exclusive on KBC Channel 1 as SV Elversberg takes on Mönchengladbach. Your holidays are bound to be exciting on board your true sports partner. Next on
I've asked you for Amaya Serrano 5 times already. For the love of God, use your brains and do something. They told me she's in this
Max, please. Please, you have to help me. I don't want him to find me. Please help me. Oh.
What's wrong? Who's that man?
Hold on. I don't get why Amaya ran away from us. Why did you want to escape?
This is all really weird. There's got to be something else, Mom.
No. You're getting confused. I don't need to give you any explanation for anything in case you didn't know. I don't owe you any explanation, nor anyone. What happens between Amaya and I stays between us, and that's how I intend to keep it. Do you get it?
I brought you into this world. A machine that can think and feel. Watch and watch. Watch. It's like a child. It has to learn.
Your name. Chatby.
You taught us so much more than I could ever have imagined.
We're gonna make you cool and tough.
Don't laugh, I'm being cool.
I am consciousness. I am alive. I am Chappy.
Gear up and maintain a healthy, fit and active lifestyle right there at home by keeping up with Gear Up on Channel 1, 5:30 to 6 a.m. Monday to Saturday. Gear Up every day for every moment, and remember to stay home and keep safe.
Welcome back. In sports, former league champions Tusker FC registered a hard-fought 1-0 win over visitors Vihiga United in a closely contested FKF Premier League match played at Kasarani Stadium. The win moved the Brewers to second position in the FKF Premier League log on 10 points.
Hosts Tusker FC came into the match aiming to extend their good run after trouncing defending champions Gor Mahia in their last outing. The first half was rather quiet, with both sides failing to make clear-cut chances. The match went into the breather, scores at 0-0. After resumption, midfielder Jackson Masharia scored the lone goal to hand Tusker FC maximum points. The win moved the Brewers to second position on 10 points.
Mpangilio vile tulikuwa tumejipanga ilikuwa ni sawa, kwa sababu hatukuwa tunataka tuwaruhusu Tusker wacheze, na kweli ilikuwa inafanyika vile tulikuwa tunataka. Nafasi tulipata hatukuzitumia. Bas moja hiyo haikuwa nafasi, ilikuwa ni nusu ya nafasi, lakini wakatoa ndio hivyo.
Leo wachezaji wako hapa na wazoefu pia. Na mara ya kwanza tukianza tukukua sawa. Unaona hata hawakukua pia. Ilikuwa ni ile mambo kidogo alikuwa nje. Kisa vile walipokuja tumetrain pamoja. Tuna wachezaji wazoefu ambao wakiweka vichwa zao pamoja na tueli na ile moyo kukaa kama family moja. Najua tutafika mahali pazuri.
KCB currently leads the log ahead of Tusker FC, FC Leopards, Kariobangi Sharks and Nairobi City Stars, who complete the top 5 teams on the log. Nzoia and Ulinzi Stars occupy the last 2 positions on the log. Karanja David for Channel 1 Sports.
Ulinzi Starlets labored before trouncing Kayole Starlets 3-1 in an entertaining FKF Women Premier League Round 2 encounter played at Utalii Grounds in Nairobi.
Patricia Emase easily steered a goal past Kayole Starlets defense to hand Ulinzi Stars the lead in the 16th minute. Despite a dangerous tackle by Ulinzi Starlets goalkeeper in the penalty area that saw her sent off, Kayole Starlets missed a chance from the spot, closing the first half scores at 1-0. Upon resumption, Kayole Starlets forward Faith Otieno replied with an equalizer in the 46th minute. This was, however, short-lived as Ulinzi Starlets captain Eddie Okoth handed them the lead. Eddie Okoth completed a brace in the 49th minute to ensure Ulinzi Stars walked away with maximum points.
Tumekuwa na problem na scoring na natingio ndo tunakuakia, tumepata a lot of chances na strikers wangu wajachangamka venye inafaa. Then defense line yangu kiangalia venye tumekuwa na problem kubwa pia panda defense. Unaangalia tumefungwa na mtu mmoja na break defense, so hiyo ndo tunaenda kuakia.
Nimefurahia sana, bear in mind that tulipata red card dakika 15, so kucheza tukiwa less hizo 75 minutes then kumanage kuget a win ya 3-1, hiyo ni kitu nafurahia sana.
Karanja David for Channel 1 Sports.
And Leicester City climbed to a second in the Premier League as they overcame top 4 rivals Tottenham to move 4 points behind leaders Liverpool in a hard-fought battle between the sides starting the day 3rd and 4th in the table. Spurs 1 point above the visitors. It was the latter who established themselves as Liverpool's closest challengers, courtesy of Jamie Vardy's penalty and a Toby Alderweireld own goal.
Jamie Vardy smashes Leicester into the lead. Straight down the middle. And potentially right up to second place. Aimed in towards Jamie Vardy and it's bounced in off Alderweireld. And Leicester City are 2 to the good. Toby Alderweireld is crestfallen and Brendan Rodgers has his teeth into this.
Our performance was not good, but the game was not like they deserved to win or we deserved to lose. I think in the end it was not a good game. I would describe as a mistake.
And that's the latest for now, but remember we still have family matters coming up shortly. We'll be giving you a few tips on how to stay safe during the festive seasons. Dr. Rudy Eggers is our guest tonight. That discussion coming up shortly after the weather forecast with Yusuf Farah. Stay tuned for that.
Tonight, Nyeri and Kericho tie at 11 degrees Celsius, making the two areas the coldest in the country. Rainfall is expected in a few areas of the coastal region, the northeastern, and the same is expected in the Highlands West. Good evening. My name is Yusuf Farah. Many thanks for keeping it Channel 1. Time now for your Channel 1 with the updates. Tomorrow morning, sunny intervals dominate the areas of Garissa and Mandera. Rainfall is expected with a little bit of sunny intervals in Garissa, and the same is expected in Wajir. For the residents of the coastal region, expect showers in the morning accompanied by sunny intervals. For the central and Nyanza, there will be sunny intervals in the morning. Taking a look at the afternoon, where Kisumu will be having showers accompanied by thunderstorms. Remember to keep warm or have a cup of a warm coffee in that area. The coastal region continues to be having showers and accompanied by sunny intervals. Rather, for the northeastern region, the same all the way to Lodwar and areas bordering Kenya and southern Sudan. Taking a look at the temperatures, Mandera highs of 36, lows of 25, Garissa highs of 33, lows of 24, and at the capital city highs of 26 and lows of 17. On that note, I complete the local weather forecast. The international weather forecast is coming up in a bit. Again, many thanks for keeping it Channel 1. Until we meet again, remember, stay safe, wash your hands, and maintain social distance. Take care of yourselves. Good night.
On the next episode of Corner.
Checking
Nishafanya vile ulikuwa unataka. Mami yako mali unataka. Nini unataka na mimi?
This time we fight.
You should have worked with the police from the start.
How can you say that? All I did was be there for her when things went bad between her and Simon.
There's no way to keep Richard's name out of it. I'm so sorry, Julia. You know, I hate that it has to be this way. But we agreed we can't let them get away with what they're doing anymore. There's no other way, Julia.
Good evening and thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Family Matters. My name is Purity Museo and it's glad to have you tuned in tonight. We just want to have a look at how well we should be taking care of ourselves during this festive season. And to guide us with that discussion is Dr. Rudy Eggers, who is the World Health Organization's representative to Kenya. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us. And once again, sorry for the delay with the show. We apologize for keeping you. Yes, all right. So let's begin with the latest. We have received reports confirmed by the World Health Organization that there is a new strain of coronavirus reported in the UK. Maybe you can let us know the development about this new strain.
So indeed, it's quite new information. So the new strain was reported to the World Health Organization just recently, although it seems to have been circulating for a while. It is located mostly in the UK, although the first cases have been detected in the Netherlands and Australia and other places. And it seems as if the transmission is increased, but we don't have the full details as yet. We don't know if it's maybe because it's more easily detectable that in fact we are finding more of this virus. It does not seem to be cause more harm or more severe disease, but again, it's quite early days before we can actually say what kind of effect this variant will have. For now, the World Health Organization is in contact with the authorities in the UK to see how to get the best information out there to actually be able to inform member states of this.
And is it clear whether it may spread to other parts of the world? Again, as we saw with the coronavirus, the origin was in China. Would we say that UK is the origin for this new strain of the virus?
Again, there's not enough information. There seems to be the virus has already spread to other places, so it's not confined only to the UK. And in fact, it's likely that it will spread to other places because, of course, the virus probably has been circulating for a while. Even now, we are detecting and noticing that it actually is more easily detectable. So it's quite likely that actually it has already moved beyond the United Kingdom.
And would you, as a WHO, link this new strain of virus to the second wave of infections and third that is being witnessed in some parts of the world?
I think it is separate from that. So I think the waves that we're encountering mainly in the Northern Hemisphere, but also in South Africa and other places, are really a product of the way people have become complacent with the measures that we have against the virus. And in fact, we probably know that 4 out of 5 people are still susceptible to this disease. Even here in Kenya, those numbers are quite high still. So actually we should anticipate that further cases will actually occur in Kenya, in the rest of the world, because there are many, many people that are still susceptible to this disease. But that is irrespective of which variant you're talking about. It really is not dependent on the variant. That further waves will come on as people become complacent and not follow the guidelines properly.
Is it too much work for the UN health body that you are still doing research on the COVID-19 disease, and now we have a new strain of the coronavirus? How are you dealing with this?
I think that is what the World Health Organization is there for. It's meant to actually bring together the information, the best information from across the world, consolidate that, get advised by the experts. So WHO actually convenes together the experts from around the world to actually understand better what the disease is doing or what the virus is doing. And that is really what we are there for. Sure, it's been a very intense year, but I think it's been a very intense year for everybody. Everybody's been feeling the strain of this pandemic and how people need to interact with each other. And really the World Health Organization is meant to really push the agenda forwards to make sure that we can protect as many lives as possible, protect especially the most vulnerable, the elderly, those with comorbidities.
Right, and almost a year on since COVID-19 was reported in China, there were reports it could be airborne, not airborne, social distancing is working, put on the mask. Do we have now enough information on how this disease, COVID-19, could be prevented?
Well, I think we're learning all the time, and in fact we are learning that things like the mask and social distancing actually work quite well. They are actually quite effective in actually providing the protection that we need. So while in the beginning we were not quite clear how best to control this disease, this is now becoming much more clear. But day by day we're learning new things. We're learning how the disease spreads. We're learning how to interact with each other. Things like in Europe they're looking at ski resorts now, how to interact there, how to be safe here. The second wave has taught us a lot of things about immunity and how people still remain susceptible even while the disease has already ravaged the country.
Still on information about the coronavirus immunity, do we have anything about concerning immunity, especially when people test positive for COVID-19? Are we seeing immunity on their part, or are there cases where they could be reinfected?
We don't have any clear information about reinfection as yet. So there have been some cases that have tested positive and then negative and then positive again. But that may be a feature of the way that testing actually gets done. The PCR test is quite sensitive, and even if there's some genetic material left, actually the virus can be redetected. So as yet we don't have information if there truly is a reinfection going on. From the information that we're getting from the vaccines, it actually seems that there is a protective value in the immunity. So it seems to be a ray of hope that actually, in fact, the immunity might be present and might be protecting the people.
Right. Globally, so far, over 76 million people have contracted coronavirus, and about 1.7 died from the same disease. The cases are increasing day by day, and we have, as the world, not been able to control the spread of the disease. Does this have anything to do with the behavior of people, or still it's on the preventive measures that have not been clearly, understood?
I think it's very clear that the behavior of the individuals really plays a big role. So obviously, as the climate has become colder in the Northern Hemisphere, people have come together more in enclosed spaces, and that's where we've seen the rapid rise of cases and of deaths as well. And this has really been the driver. The action, how people interact with each other, really is the main cause of how the epidemic has spread. We've also seen some celebrations go on in some of the Northern Hemisphere countries, but also in South America and South Africa, etc., that have really caused what we call super spreader events, where a lot of people congregate without protecting themselves properly, and then suddenly many people being infected at the same time. And this is really maybe also a warning for a place like Kenya, where in fact we're going into the festive season now, and in fact people might feel, well, we've been constrained so long for the whole year, it's time to celebrate. Well, in fact, we're seeing this celebration, this going out and not following the guidelines actually is quite dangerous.
And how would you describe what is happening in Africa? Still, cases are not as much as what we're seeing in other, continents. Do you still want to say it's because we have not ramped up the testing capacity here in Africa, or the virus is not so harsh on the African countries?
Again, it's a thing we're learning still. Truly, we haven't got the testing capacity like the rest of the world, so that is still a factor. So if you look at the figures, the proportion of the population tested is lower in Africa. At the same time, we've got experience in South Africa, of course, which was 5th highest in the entire world at a stage. So in fact, the disease does also come to Africa. Thankfully, it has not been as fatal in Africa, so we've actually had much less fatality in Africa. Only 3% of the global deaths have actually occurred in Africa. Why that is the case? We've got a younger population in Africa. There might be some other immunity components that are at play, but this is part of our learning. It's still not firmly cleared up why that is the case.
And from your own evaluation as a health body back home in Kenya, how would you describe Kenya's fight against this pandemic, and most importantly our curve, because in the last 24 hours we had 349 more people testing positive from only 5,000 samples tested.
Yeah. So in fact the curve currently is declining again, so we're having less cases this week than we had last week. So that's maybe good news, but again, also the testing has declined. So as the testing kits have become less, the laboratories actually have geared down the operations over the holiday period. Some laboratories have stopped actually testing altogether. And this is part of the reason, in fact, why we are not seeing as many positive cases. So we truly cannot differentiate between, is it a reduction of the transmission of the disease, or is it a reduction of the testing that is causing it? It feels a little bit like we had in August, when there was also a decline in cases, but there was also a decline in testing. So at that stage, people were also feeling, well, maybe we finished with the first wave and things are okay again. It feels the same way. I am fearful that actually we will actually have another peak as people come out of the festive season, maybe infecting more people.
Right. And allow me to ask you this. Do we have, because most of the people, especially in Africa, who test positive for COVID-19 are being isolating at home under the home-based care program. So do we have recommendations on how to care for these patients, because most of them are left alone, and during the first week of this struggling with the disease, I actually had the virus sometime in October, and so it's a bit tough that you have to stay alone and your family members are not even aware how they can take care of you. How do we care, according to WHO, for COVID-19 patients?
In fact, both WHO and the Kenyan government, the Kenyan Ministry of Health, have got very clear guidelines on home-based care. I think what maybe can be done a bit better is the informing of the people that are directly taking care of the person that is tested positive. So while there are general guidelines that are maybe written in a way that expressed towards health workers or to social workers, maybe we could have done a better job to really inform the family members on how best to actually help those that have tested positive. In fact, I think Kenya has been quite successful in the use of the home-based care. Wherever it was possible to have people in a separate room or a separate environment. And for many, that has really been also a saving grace, because going to hospital for all those patients would have been quite overwhelming for the system. If you look at the numbers, there were thousands of people that were treated in home-based care that could not have been treated in the isolation centers or in the hospitals.
All right. And do we have hope to successfully fighting the coronavirus pandemic as we end the year? Because we've seen some vaccinations being introduced, especially at the US. Let's talk about this and the efficacy of these vaccinations.
So truly the vaccines are a ray of hope. So it seems that the efficacy is quite variable, between 70 and 95%. different vaccines that are being produced have got different ways of working. And just to be clear, that the numbers that have been tested are still quite low. So some of the vaccines have been tested on 40,000 people, which sounds like a lot, but in fact it's not that many. So in fact we'll be learning a lot more in the next period as people get vaccinated in large numbers, and they get evaluated afterwards on how effective this is. So the initial efficacy seems quite hopeful. And in fact, we should really see this as a way forward for Africa, for the rest of the world, to actually ultimately deal with this disease, because that really is the only ray of hope that we have at the moment.
And from where you sit representing the WHO here in Kenya, when do we expect to begin having these vaccinations? Because we really need the vaccines in the country.
WHO announced yesterday, in fact, that they had secured 2 billion doses for the so-called COVAX facility. Kenya is one of the countries that have applied for vaccine through the COVAX facility. And our understanding is maybe by the end of March that we would be getting the first vaccines in the COVAX facility. The Kenyan government has also announced additional doses being purchased through their bilateral approaches to the vaccine companies, but that I think is also still under negotiations. I'm not aware when that will actually be delivered. So we are hopeful that by maybe March this coming year, we will have the first doses coming into Kenya and to the other countries that are applying for COVAX facility.
And let's talk more about the vaccines, because most people putting on the mask and socially distancing has really changed the lives of people, which most of them are yet to adapt to this. So will this mean putting away your mask once the vaccines arrive in the country, or let's say in every part of the world? Does this mean now people may stop using the face masks and go back to their normal lives, or what will the advent of the vaccines now mean to the fight against COVID-19?
So it won't mean that immediately you can drop your mask and immediately you can go to big gatherings, etc. You should realize that the vaccines will come in quite slowly. So in Kenya it actually will be over the entire coming year. And many people will in fact not be vaccinated. So the COVAX facility provides for 20%. So I think we should recognize that for the coming year, we will still have the mask, we will still have the social distancing for a while. Ultimately, there will be enough people vaccinated, there will be enough people that are immune. We will probably be doing away with the mask altogether. But this is not something that happens immediately when the vaccine actually is brought in. It'll take a long time, a year even, before that actually comes to fruition.
And you've highlighted some of the super spreaders events, especially when people come together during celebrations. And here we are headed to Christmas next week and of course New Year's celebrations. So how big of a threat are these celebrations to the fight against COVID-19?
They can be quite a big threat. So let's be very clear about, it's really about how people act. So there's the personal side, the wearing of the mask, the washing of hands, the social distancing. So each individual actually has to comply with those individual guidances on personal behavior. But there's also the community, so avoiding crowded places, be it religious places, be it entertainment places, be it New Year's celebration, whatever it is, the crowding is a problem. Enclosed spaces, so enclosed rooms or bars or churches, anything that is enclosed. And then confined, many people coming together in the same place, crowded places are the big area. So all of these things are in place in the festive season, and that's the way we used to have our celebration. This year we really plead with people to be very, very careful. Think about not only yourself and this hard year that we've had, but really that we are not past. The virus is not sleeping, it's not going on a holiday. It will continue to infect if you continue to let it infect people. So as such, it really is a plea for this festive season not to become a super spreader event. Because if truly the health system gets overwhelmed, we really are in a very dire place.
And how would you think that people should behave during these festive seasons and have, if possible, safe celebrations?
The first thing is, I know that a lot of people travel up country. I think this is the year where we should ask the question, is it necessary? Is this travel necessary? I feel very strongly, I know people want to be with their family, they want to see maybe their parents or people that live in their up-country homes. But this is the year where really that question should be on the table. Is it necessary really to travel for your own protection and for the protection of the people back home? If you do have to travel, let's be very clear that we comply with those requirements. In the course of the transport, of course, we know that a lot of the infection may take place in the situation of a crowded transport or crowded bus stops or matatu stops. But then also the wearing of masks. A lot of people wear it under the nose or under the chin, just a basic thing like that. Just comply with the existing regulations would actually make a big difference already.
And in case it's necessary to travel up country, what are some of the precautions that you advise people to take?
The precautions remain the same,
Yes.
so that hasn't changed. The masks, the hand washing, the social distancing are the same. So let's, I think, reinforce that. I think people have become complacent. They maybe feel that they can take off the mask if they are at home, etc. And that really is not the case, especially when you are traveling from one county to the next. The mask really is necessary. And let's not forget, it's not only for yourself, it is really also for the person that you are meeting that mask is important. And then those 3 C's, avoiding the crowded, confined, enclosed spaces, that really is our main message at the moment. In the celebration mode, people coming together in enclosed spaces are really problematic.
And some countries have already imposed restrictions during this festive season. Case in point, Kenya, the curfew still remains, and other regulations. But do you think that countries should impose, like they had earlier on, travel restrictions to their citizens?
I think the restrictions have to be reactive to the actual data. So as cases fluctuate, as they get more or less, it's up to the decision makers to actually look at that data, look at the reasoning, the interpretation of that data as well, and from that make the right conclusion. So what we've seen in Europe, of course, is the effect of winter, of people being confined in close quarters. Here in Kenya, I think we should be awake to the situation and really constantly ask the question, are we doing the right thing? This is obviously for the Ministry of Health and the decision makers to make those decisions. There's also economic and social aspects that need to be taken into consideration. But ultimately, let's look at the data, let's look at the science and make appropriate decisions. At the moment, of course, Kenya has decided not to actually restrict travel. So for now, as far as I can see, people are doing the travel to upcountry homes. So it really is also up to the individual to make that personal choice if they want to put that risk to their relatives and to themselves.
And in the process of making the personal choice, most people will think of taking a COVID-19 test, and if the results are negative, then they are free to go home. So let me ask you, is a negative results enough to travel up country?
So as far as I know, there's no requirement for any testing to take to travel. So obviously when you do international travel, the airline will request you to do a negative test. But for in-country travel, as far as I know, there's no requirement. You can do it for your own assurance, but let's be clear, that is a reflection of your status at that moment. It just basically says at that moment you don't have enough genetic material of the virus in your body to actually show positive. You could infect within a day or two afterwards. So even having the negative test today, 2 days later, you could potentially be positive. There is some reassurance in it, but there's no requirement as far as I can say. So to me, much more important is really that mindset, the mindset of let's be careful, let's be protective of each other.
And from the WHO, do we have new guidelines during this festive season, or it's basically what you've talked about following this, saying that the guidelines have not changed?
So from WHO, we're reinforcing the avoid 3 C's, the crowded, enclosed, close contact. So that's the main message at the moment that we're trying to get out. It's quite similar to what has been said before, so it sounds as if it's really the old story, but let's focus on that. Over and above the personal choices, that focus on how we gather, how we come together, is really our main message at the moment.
And there's something we had talked about on caring for COVID-19 patients, and someone here is asking that, so if a relative is contracted COVID-19, how do we take care of them, especially if they are too weak to cook for themselves? Should they still continue living alone?
So that's a fine line, and really there should be contact tracers and people that support the home-based care in the counties where the people are. So there should be a mechanism of assessing if that person truly can be taken care of at home. If the situation is such that either the home situation cannot allow for proper isolation, maybe people are living together in one room, or there's no proper means of isolation, or if the person themselves have become too sick to take care, then really they have to go to an isolation centre by the government, or in fact a hospital. But there should be advisors that actually can tell them that. So the people within counties have been trained to actually be contacted and then assess these people what should be done in terms of home isolation versus government isolation.
And there's a lady asking, is wearing of masks and socially distancing enough way of protecting yourself from COVID-19? And when, I think it's 2 questions in one, and once one contracts the disease, should they be blamed that they were careless for contracting it?
So the first thing is, you can never say it's enough. It is very, very important. So let's get that message out very clearly. It is very, very important to wear the mask, to socially distance. There can always be infection. So even the mask that I'm wearing, there's possibility for the virus to enter. It will protect against 90% of droplets, but those 10%, it's possible. So the second part of the question is, should we blame people? No. This is really, really important that if a person gets infected, we cannot just say, you've been careless, therefore you are infected and you should be blamed for it. In fact, everyone, you and I, you said that you had been tested positive, can actually get this disease, even with the protection that we take. I'm quite careful actually and even I can be infected. So let's be very careful that if a person tests positive, let's not blame them, but really approach the subject with a lot of compassion. Because we also don't blame people for getting malaria. I mean, it's the same kind of thing.
All right, there's someone who sent me a message on my inbox. Maybe they do not want their identity to be revealed, but they're saying, I tested positive for COVID-19, but when I recovered, still colleagues treated me like a COVID-19 patient. So this person wants to know whether once they test negative at least twice for COVID-19, are they at a risk of spreading the same disease? Should they still isolate? There's that confusion with this particular viewer.
So no, they are no longer infectious. If they've tested, as they say, twice negative, they're no longer infectious. In fact, the WHO guideline is if the person is asymptomatic 10 days after that positive test, they are no longer considered to be infectious. So they should really be allowed to go back to their regular work, to their regular family in that context.
All right. So as we wind up, I'll welcome your message. What's your message during the upcoming festive season to any person watching out here? You had said that if necessary, you may ask yourself if it's necessary, but as an expert, what is your message? What should we do during this festive season?
I think my main message is that we are all feeling tired. It's been a really tough year. Everybody feels they need a break. They need a rest from this very difficult time. But the main message is the virus is not resting. The virus will continue to infect, and it seems in some parts of the world it is accelerating to infect. So the virus is not resting, is not taking a holiday. So even while we know people have become tired, let us not take a rest from those things that protect us. So the masks, the social distancing, the hand washing, the avoiding crowded places. It feels awkward to say it again and again because people don't want to hear it anymore. But because the virus will not stop, we must continue. The ray of hope really is we will hopefully get vaccines, there will be immunity in the population, and we will get back to a more normal life. And I think that's what we are hoping for. So the message at the moment is the virus doesn't rest. Please don't rest your protection measures.
The virus does not rest. That is a message, even as we look forward to celebrating the Christmas and New Year's next week and next week, but one respectively. Dr. Rudy Eggers, thank you so much for making time for us. It's always great to have you on this particular show on Sundays. Thank you once again for your time, and Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you so much. And that has been Dr. Rudy Eggers, who is the World Health Organization's representative to Kenya, just talking about some of the precautions that you ought to take if you have to travel up country for the festive seasons. But remember, the virus does not and will not go on holiday. That's a message from Dr. Rudy. Thank you once again for watching Family Matters tonight. My name is Purity Museo, and Simon Caro, the husband or sign language interpreter tonight. Do have yourself a lovely night and week ahead. Take care, stay safe, wash your hands, put on the mask, and socially distance if you can. God bless.